The desert is too quiet. Not peaceful, just empty. The kind of silence that feels like it's waiting for something to die. You are on your knees in the sand. It burns through the fabric at your skin. The grains slip into your sandals, grind between your teeth, cling to the blood at the corner of your mouth. Your lips are split from heat and thirst. When you swallow, it feels like swallowing glass. The horizon trembles in waves of white light. The sun presses down like a god's thumb, slow and merciless. Then you hear it. Metal clinks. Not Roman steel. Different, lighter, foreign. Boots circle you, slow, deliberate. You smell sweat, leather, and something sharper, oil heating over flame. A hand suddenly grabs your hair and jerks your head back. Your jaw falls open in a broken gasp. You try to speak, to command, to bargain, to remind them who you are, but all that leaves your throat is a dry, cracked wheeze. And then you see it. A crucible rises into your vision. Inside, something glows. Liquid, radiant, blinding. Gold. It swirls like a miniature sun, molten and alive, its light dancing in your pupils. The soldiers laugh, not wildly, not cruelly, but with cold amusement. This is theater to them, a joke finally reaching its punchline. One of them leans close enough for you to smell his breath. "You wanted gold," he whispers. The crucible tilts. The glowing metal creeps toward the edge. And just before it spills, we pull away. Because to understand why the richest man in Rome is kneeling in the desert, begging for mercy, you have to see how high he once stood. To understand why gold hovers above your open mouth, you have to know your name. You are Marcus Licinius Crassus, the richest man in the Roman Republic. Not wealthy, not powerful. Rich. So rich that ancient writers struggled to measure it. They spoke of fortunes exceeding 200 million sesterces, a sum that, in modern terms, would stretch into the billions, enough to fund wars, enough to buy senators, enough to make kings nervous. Rome does not breathe without passing through your fingers. When fire breaks out in the city, and it often does, your private brigades arrive first, not to save homes, to negotiate. Your men stand with buckets while families beg in the street. You offer to buy their burning house for a fraction of its worth. If they refuse, the flames continue. If they accept, your men extinguish the fire. Ash becomes profit. Block by block, Rome becomes yours. You own vast real estate across the capital. Entire neighborhoods answer to your agents. Beneath Spain's soil, your silver mines bleed metal into your vaults. Enslaved labor works in darkness so your name can shine in marble. But your true genius is quieter. During the brutal purges of Lucius Cornelius Sulla, when names were posted and men were marked for death, you saw opportunity in terror. Confiscated estates were auctioned. You bought them cheaply. Blood soaked the Republic, and you invested in it. Where others saw chaos, you saw margins. And men who would later reshape history once stood in your debt. A young, ambitious politician named Julius Caesar, drowning in obligations, found relief in your loans. Without your gold, his rise might have ended before it began. Another titan, Pompey, returned from campaigns crowned in glory. He had legions, triumphs, applause. You had the treasury. Together, the three of you formed an uneasy balance, power divided between sword, strategy, and money. But in Rome, wealth does not equal admiration. The people cheer generals, not accountants. They celebrate blood-stained victories, not ledgers balanced in shadow. Pompey is called Magnus the Great. Caesar becomes a legend in Gaul. And you are whispered about, respected, feared, needed, but not loved. And for a Roman nobleman, that absence is unbearable. Because you can buy land. You can buy loyalty. You can even buy silence. but you cannot buy glory. And if you are still watching, ask yourself something: would you have stopped here, with unimaginable wealth and influence, or would you have wanted more? If you're drawn to stories where ambition curdles into catastrophe, subscribe to the darkest punishments in history. And if you won't, tell me why. What part of this darkness isn't worth your time? Because for Crassus, wealth was never enough. He did not want to be the richest man in Rome. He wanted to be remembered. And that hunger, not for gold, but for greatness, is what led him back to the desert. Back to the silence. Back to the crucible. Rome applauds steel. It does not applaud accounting. While your vaults swell, Pompey marches through the streets in triumph. Laurel crowns his head. Crowds chant his name. Painted wagons display the spoils of conquered kingdoms. Senators rise when he enters a room. He is called Magnus, the Great. And far to the north, in the forests and mud of Gaul, Julius Caesar writes his own legend in blood. Every dispatch sent back to Rome reads like prophecy. Tribes fall, rivers are crossed, armies kneel. His soldiers would follow him into the underworld. You financed part of that rise. Your loans kept Caesar afloat when debt strangled him. Your influence shielded political alliances. Your wealth stabilized the very machine that now glorifies other men. But when their names are shouted in the forum, yours is not. In the Senate, voices lower when you enter, respectful, calculated. Behind closed doors, the tone shifts. They call you fortunate. They call you cunning. They call you useful. But they do not call you brave. Roman culture worships scars. It worships generals who smell of iron and dust. Wealth is tolerated. Victory is adored. And you are tolerated. That distinction festers. It grows in the quiet moments. When Pompey receives another triumph. When Caesar's campaigns dominate conversation. When veterans speak of loyalty forged under fire. You command assets. They command loyalty. Even in your own house, comparison takes shape. Your son, Publius Crassus, does what you did not. He rides with Caesar in Gaul. He earns praise in battle. He is spoken of as bold, decisive, capable. When soldiers describe him, there is admiration in their voices. Not calculation. He returns from campaign hardened by war, carrying something you have never held in your hands, earned glory. And somewhere beneath your composed exterior, something shifts. You are the richest man in Rome. Yet history remembers warriors. You begin to understand a truth that terrifies you more than poverty ever could. Gold does not echo. It does not thunder across centuries. It does not immortalize. If you die today, Rome will divide your fortune. But if Pompey dies, Rome mourns. If Caesar falls, Rome trembles. You realize the flaw that has been guiding you all along, not greed, not cruelty, not even ambition. It is hunger for permanence. You do not want wealth. You want immortality. And immortality in Rome is earned on a battlefield, not in a counting house. If this tension unsettles you, it should. Because every empire has men who mistake influence for invincibility. If you haven't subscribed yet, and you're still here watching this ambition take shape, ask yourself why you'd walk away before seeing how it ends. History punishes impatience. For Crassus, the decision forms quietly. If Rome will not give him glory, he will go and take it. So you look east. Not toward opportunity. Toward war. You secure the governorship of Syria, a province rich, strategic, and restless. Officially, it is an administrative post, a responsibility, a boundary to defend. But you do not see a border. You see a stage. Beyond Syria lies Parthia, vast, disciplined, patient. Rome has no formal war with them. There is a treaty, an understanding, an unspoken agreement that two empires can exist without devouring one another. Peace is stable. Peace is profitable. Peace is forgettable. You begin to speak of threats, of unfinished business, of destiny. You frame invasion as preemption, as necessity, as inevitability. In truth, it is neither. It is hunger. The Senate hesitates. Some warn you. Others question the legality. A war without provocation risks more than soldiers. It risks reputation. Rome is powerful, yes, but arrogance has a scent and the East can smell it. You dismiss them. You are Marcus Licinius Crassus. You have funded armies larger than this. You have rebuilt districts of Rome from ash. You have crushed a slave revolt under Spartacus years before and lined the Appian Way with crucified bodies as proof of consequence. You believe resistance folds under pressure. Why would Parthia be different? Then comes an offer. From the north, the Armenian king Artavas II proposes an alliance. He knows the terrain. He understands Parthian mobility. He offers you 40,000 troops and a safer route through the mountains, terrain that would neutralize Parthian cavalry, force them into disadvantage, bend the geography in your favor. It is a strategic gift. You refuse it. Mountains are slow, constricted, cautious. The desert is open. Open ground means Roman formations, Roman discipline, Roman dominance. You choose speed over prudence. You choose visibility over safety. You choose the plains. And in doing so, you make the decision that will echo in molten metal. Because the plains of Mesopotamia are not empty. They are engineered by nature for a different kind of war. Flat horizons, endless sightlines, no shelter, no water, no elevation, perfect for riders who never stop moving. You convince yourself that Rome's legions, the finest infantry in the world, will adapt. You have seen Rome overcome worse. But you are walking into a battlefield designed not to clash with you, but to exhaust you, designed not to overpower you, but to bleed you slowly. The desert does not rush. It waits. And before you march east, before you step fully into that horizon, understand this. If stories like this disturb you, they are supposed to. Subscribe now to the darkest punishments in history, or admit in the comments that you would rather scroll past what unchecked ambition really costs. History does not ignore hubris. Why should you? Because once you cross into that desert, there will be no applause. Only silence. And the distant sound of hooves you cannot yet see. You march. The sun is a hammer, relentless. Its heat is not something you observe. You feel it through every pore. It seeps under armor, clings to your skin like molten metal. The dust gets in your eyes, your mouth, your lungs. Every step kicks up sand that scratches your throat. Water jars rattle emptily at your side. You realize too late you are less an army and more a procession of dehydrated men, marching into a crucible that has no mercy. Your scouts report nothing. Nothing but heat, nothing but horizon. And yet the danger is not absent. It is invisible, moving, patient. You hear horses in the distance, always at the edge of hearing, then gone. Shadows flicker across the sand, never staying. You chase ghosts, yet each glance reveals nothing. The guides you trusted, the men who promised you safe passage, now falter. One vanishes, another hesitates. Then you understand, betrayal is not loud. It is a whisper in the sand, a hesitation at a fork in the road. The path you thought was safe is empty. Your army is stranded near Carrhae, exposed, hungry, and far from Rome. And they come. Not in the way you expect. Not with banners waving, drums of war, or the clamor of siege. They move like a shadow on wind. The Parthian horse archers do not seek engagement, they seek patience. They surround, they harass, they never pause. Every arrow that arcs toward you carries a lesson you cannot unlearn, the Parthian shot. They fire while retreating. They draw you forward, you chase, you exhaust, you bleed. And when you turn, they strike again. Your formations, so precise on the plains of Italy, unravel under heat, hunger, and relentless motion. Discipline falters. Cohesion shatters. The legionaries, once the envy of the world, are now forced to bend under tactics designed not to break, but to erode. And then the cataphracts arrive. Heavy cavalry armored like gods of war. They crash into your flanks with the weight of inevitability. Shields shatter. Spears splinter. Men fall, not in the glory of battle, but in the merciless arithmetic of distance, heat, and motion. You realize too late the desert was never empty. It was a weapon. The horizon itself has been forged to undo you. Open ground favors them, and every step you took was into a trap sculpted by centuries of understanding. Rome can endure many things, yet here, in this endless expanse, endurance is irrelevant. Only adaptation matters, and adaptation requires foresight, something you left behind with prudence and caution, back in the mountains you refused to traverse. If you feel the weight of this story, let it sit, let it simmer, because ambition unchecked has a cost, and curiosity is the only antidote. Subscribe to the darkest punishments in history to follow the march of Crassus into oblivion. Learn the lessons history writes in blood, not in stone. You march on. Every soldier, every step, every heartbeat carries the shadow of inevitable defeat. The desert does not fight. It simply waits, and the Parthians, masters of patience and motion, have only begun. The horizon shivers with hooves. You cannot yet see them, but soon you will feel them. You form the square. The Roman legion, disciplined, unyielding, the pride of centuries, lock shields, lock arms, lock fate. Testudo turtle shell, impermeable, impenetrable, or so you hope. The storm descends. Not of wind, not of sand, but of arrows, thousands upon thousands, arrows that whistle, sting, and pierce, each one a silent verdict. They come from nowhere, from camels that never tire, from hands that never falter, infinite in supply. Parthian logistics are as invisible as the desert itself. You feel the first strike, then the 100th, then the 1000th. The square quivers. The men grunt, strain, suffocate under their own armor. Testudo is safety, and yet it is a coffin. Your son Publius sees the strain. He shouts for a charge, forward, break their lines. He believes in Roman blood, in courage, in motion. You hesitate. You weigh prudence, you weigh patience, you weigh history. And hesitation is fatal. Publius rides forward, alone, into the open, into the trap you refuse to see. The Parthian cataphracts emerge from the horizon like death riding armored thunder. They smash into him. Encircle. He fights valiantly, desperately. But the desert, the arrows, the overwhelming tide, they converge like inevitability. Publius falls. He chooses the only escape left, suicide, a dagger to his own throat. Capture is worse than death, he knows. And yet death does not end his story here. The Parthians raise his head on a spear, a silent message carved in flesh and terror. You see it. Crassus sees it. And with that, Rome sees it. The square trembles. Morale collapses like sand through a sieve. Men stumble, shout, panic. Night is not an ally. It is a curtain hiding thousands of deaths, thousands of captures. Chaos spreads faster than any command. Your formations, your discipline, your centuries of experience crumbled beneath the weight of arrows, motion, and patience. You retreat. Not in order, not in victory, only in survival, and even survival is stained with blood. You count thousands dead, thousands taken. The desert has claimed them. The Parthians have claimed them. History will remember few by name. And yet in the aftermath, a lesson is carved into memory as sharply as any sword. Hubris, when guided by hunger, becomes the architect of ruin. If this unnerves you, it is meant to. The darkest punishments in history is not a comfort, it is a witness. Subscribe now to see how ambition falters when the horizon itself is a weapon. You march through the night. Shadows of the fallen are everywhere. The wind carries whispers of the dead. Every step forward is heavy with consequence. Every heartbeat echoes the cost of choices made for glory, not caution. Rome is alive but broken. Crassus, once a titan, feels the weight of the desert, the arrows, the cataphracts, and the death of his blood. And you feel it with him. Because this is not just a battle. This is a testament, a warning, that even the mightiest can fall when the enemy does not fight by your rules and the terrain itself conspires against you. You stand. The desert is quiet now, but it is not forgiving. Shorna, the Parthian general, approaches, calm, precise. A truce is offered, delicate in words but absolute in intent, a lifeline dangling over the blood-soaked sand. Your soldiers, exhausted, wounded, desperate, push you forward. Accept it, they shout. Survival is all they know now. Discipline, honor, glory, they are ghosts. Only the need to live speaks louder than the echoes of Rome. You meet across the table, or what passes for one in this barren wasteland. Commanders, once titans, now humans swayed by thirst, fatigue, fear. Words are exchanged. Confusion reigns. Misreading, mistrust, centuries of rivalry condensed into minutes. Then violence erupts. Crassus, the architect of ambition, is struck down, not in grand combat, not by swords in formation, by betrayal, by circumstance, by the desert itself, which has turned the theater of conquest into a stage of ruin. And the punishment is as cruel as it is symbolic. Roman historians will record it. The head of Marcus Licinius Crassus is severed, but they do not stop there. Molten gold is poured into the mouth. A simple act, yet it speaks volumes, a testament to greed, to hunger, to ambition unrestrained. The gold, liquid fire, fills the space once used to command armies, to build cities, to crush rebellion. Every historian who writes it shivers at the symbolism. Rome's richest man, consumed by wealth even in death. Orodes II, the Parthian king, ensures that the moment lingers. Stories tell that Crassus' severed head is displayed. It is more than a warning. It is performance. A spectacle akin to the Bacchae, a theatrical embodiment of divine and human retribution. The head becomes a prop, a symbol of hubris punished, of ambition's fragility. If you've made it this far and still haven't subscribed to the darkest punishments in history, ask yourself why. You just witnessed one of the most brutal symbolic punishments in ancient history. If that does not earn your subscription, tell me in the comments what would. Rome survives, yet the echo of Carrhae lingers. Legions retreat, shattered in body and spirit. Survivors carry tales of arrows, deserts, betrayal, and molten gold. Lessons inscribed in fire and blood. You feel it with them, every choice, every step, every ambition unchecked. History whispers, wealth cannot shield you, glory cannot defend you, and desert, patience, and cunning often triumph where swords fail. The Parthians leave the battlefield, the bodies, the echoes, and the story behind. And you are left with the silence, the true witness of hubris. He bought influence. Through gold he commanded senators, shaped policy, bent Rome to his will. He bought armies. Legions marched at his call, shields raised, swords sharp. The Appian Way itself bore testament to the reach of his wealth. He bought silence. Allies, debtors, rivals, minds swayed, mouths closed, consequences deferred. But gold could not buy the desert. It could not buy the shifting winds that scoured skin and spirit alike. The sand that entered lungs, eyes, and hearts, unyielding, indifferent. Gold could not buy arrows. Thousands of them shot with precision, drawn with patience. Silent executioners flying faster than fear itself. No coin could deflect them, no formation withstand infinite motion. Gold could not buy time. The desert measured hours differently. Days bled into nights, thirst into exhaustion, hesitation into inevitability. Fortune, once his companion, abandoned him in the open plains. And so gold became his executioner. Molten fire poured into a mouth that once commanded legions. The symbol is absolute. The wealth that could summon empires becomes the instrument of demise. Crassus dies not just as a man, but as a warning. Ambition untempered, hubris unbound, punished in iron, sand, and molten gold. History records it coldly. Roman historians note the spectacle. The Parthians performed it with intent, precision, theatrical cruelty. And yet it is not only history that remembers. You remember, you feel it. If the weight of gold as executioner resonates, subscribe to the darkest punishments in history. Witness what ambition cannot buy, what wealth cannot shield, and what arrogance always costs. The desert does not weep. It does not judge. It waits. And those who cross it thinking themselves untouchable learn, too late, that the most valuable treasures can carry the deadliest price. Crassus is gone, but the lesson remains. You look at the world now. You see it in the corridors of power, in the chambers where decisions are whispered, not debated. Wealth sways governments. Campaigns are funded with billions, with promises hidden in contracts, with silence bought and bought again. You see it in the arenas of conflict. Private armies, drones, missiles, modern legions marching at the call of those who can pay. Ego drives ventures that nations should approach with caution. Risk is rewarded with headlines, not hindsight. And you realize disaster has become opportunity. The desert is no longer a physical expanse. It is a metaphor, a stage, a test. Every unprepared ambition, every unchecked greed still meets the same truth. Geography has changed. Technology has changed. But human nature, it has not. Ask yourself, who today believes money can buy invincibility? Who believes influence is armor against the inevitability of consequence? The answer is never simple. The lessons of Carrhae, of Crassus, of molten gold poured into the mouth of ambition, they linger in the shadows, waiting for arrogance to stumble, waiting for the desert to return in some new form. History repeats, not always identically, but in pattern, in pulse, in principle. The hubris of one generation becomes the cautionary tale of the next, and if you are attentive, you can see it unfold. The same mistakes, the same overreach, the same collapse under weight unseen until too late. The desert is patient. It waits. It always waits. And if you have followed this far, if the shadow of Crassus, of arrows of molten gold, has pressed against your understanding, then you understand the stakes. Subscribe to the darkest punishments in history. Witness ambition stripped bare. Witness the cost of hubris then and now. Witness what the desert teaches silently, without apology. Because the horizon is always there, stretching beyond sight, beyond pride, beyond control. And when you step into it unprepared, history does not flinch. It merely repeats. The desert is patient. And so should you be.